When it comes to new games, the hardest part is always to get your settings right, and I've personally found that to be extra hard in XDefiant for some reason. The way both controller and keyboard and mouse feel in this game is completely different to other FPS games that I've played. It kind of like, the best way I could describe it is that it feels like indie game FPS games. Not saying that it's bad, it's just, it takes time to get used to because it doesn't feel like Call of Duty, for example, obviously the main comparison. So today I'll be showing you the best settings, well, not necessarily the best settings, they're my personal favorite settings, and I'll be giving you some tips to how to figure out what works best for you. And if you do enjoy today's video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to be notified every time I upload another video like this one. So I personally don't play on keyboard and mouse, so I can't say anything about that. So if you're a keyboard and mouse player, I'm sorry, but this is for controller specifically, but you can still learn some stuff from this video as I'll be going through the graphic settings, accessibility, the gameplay stuff, all that. Field of view is mainly preference. I would suggest anywhere between 100 and 120. I feel like personally 120 is a little bit too much, so I stick at 110, but it's really just what you prefer. You want your ADS field of view to be consistent so that it doesn't zoom you in when you aim in like fully. This will keep adjusted with your field of view. ADS sensitivity transition, we want instant because our ADS sensitivity and our normal sensitivity is going to be completely different, and we want it to just instantly switch between those values. I have melee during ADS off. Aiming interrupts reload. You want off. I don't know why I had that on, but you want that off so that when you're reloading, if you start sprinting, it doesn't cancel it. Or maybe you would want this on if you want to cancel your reload a lot quicker, but for me, I just YY. So all this stuff down here, I didn't really touch. I kept all this that default. Everything is usually where you want it to be, but it just HUD limits. I have my horizontal 0, my vertical 40, and the reason why is to kind of shrink your UI a little bit so it's not right at the edge, because the minimap is very, very important in games like these, and I want to be able to see the minimap as easy as possible without really taking my eyes away. Obviously, that's kind of like a competitive thing, but that's what I prefer. Damage numbers on, enemy health bars on, obviously. Minimap rotation, I have off. All this stays the same. I do have my FPS display on. And then the team composition overlay, I did test, and I would prefer to have this off. This essentially will show like an overlay of all your teammates, like player status and all that. So like player status is like whether they're alive or not. You'll see when they die. You'll see if their ultra's ready. You'll see what abilities they have available, stuff like that. And with using the HUD adjustment limit being closer to the center of the screen, it kind of like is just too much having this on, so I prefer it off. Now for controller, I have everything on default. Aim assist, you want standard. You do not want to turn this off. If you're playing controller, you're going to put yourself at an insane disadvantage against keyboard and mouse players, and against every other controller player. It's just, it'd be stupid to have that off. Aim response curve type, reverse S curve. The reason why is because it's essentially like dynamic in COD. It's the same reason why everyone uses that in that game. Sensitivity is a tricky one. That's the one that always feels off, and it always takes me a while to get used to because I don't know why. Every time I start playing XDefiant after like a month of not playing, and I know this because of all the different play tests that I went and played, getting on for the first time, it always like takes me a while to get my settings right because the game always feels so weird. I would say keep your sensitivity. I heard a tip to keep your sensitivity between 35 and 45, and I personally like 38. So just test that, and if you need to lower it, I would say put it at 40. And if you need it a little bit lower, you put it lower. If you need it higher, you put it a little bit higher, and just test it. Both the sensitivity multipliers I have at 0.98. That's just personal preference. That's essentially just your ADS sensitivity. Low zoom is for like your red dot sights and stuff, and then high zoom is for like 8 times zooms and above, so most snipers. Dead zone, essentially for both of these, you usually want to, the main rule of thumb is to put them as low as you can without having stick drift. So you keep putting them as low as possible, and once you start getting stick drift, then you boost it up and you find that value in which you're not getting any stick drift. I didn't do that. Me personally, I just like 610, but that's essentially the rule of thumb that you want to follow. Acceleration speed multiplier, I do not know why this is a good thing. I had this off in the beta, but it feels much better in the full game. If you want to try this on, it'll essentially boost like your look speed a little bit, but in the beta it kind of felt weird. I would say try it at 1.5, and if you don't like it and your stuff feels off, put it at 0 and just not use it at all. But me personally, I've been kind of liking it. All this stuff more normal. Controller vibration you want off because that's just, if your controller's rumbling, that's gonna fuck up with your aim. It's just pointless having that on. Audio is pretty important, mainly because footsteps are pretty easy to hear as there's no dead silence. You can copy my audio settings, but obviously this depends because I have a mix amp outside of the game. Main volume and SFX volume you want usually as high as possible without bursting your ears, because that's where you're going to hear the footsteps. Music volume obviously you don't want on. And then voice chat I just have off because my big issue that I really have with this game is that you can't talk to the other team, even in text chat. So there's no trash talk that goes on at all, which is a real bummer. But like, I don't find any use of listening to my teammates because I'm just playing casually for the most part. So I turned voice chat off. And the graphics settings, majorities are going to be like pretty much low to off. And I'm going to scroll through and you can copy as you would like. It's going to be better to have your display mode on full screen. You get more FPS that way, but I have window full screen because I tab out a lot. You want the highest refresh rate of what your monitor is. Triple buffering you want off because that's going to add latency if you have it on. Reduce latency on, of course. NVIDIA Reflex low latency on plus boost. Brightness and contrast I left at the default values because essentially you just want the lowest amount of latency possible and the highest amount of FPS possible. And honestly, triple buffering doesn't give you that much FPS anyways. VSync off, that'll give you a bunch of latency. Even the devs would recommend you to turn this off. Frame limit off, you don't want to be limiting your frames. All of this is low, 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 off. 100% resolution scale. Sharpening at 10 because I like it being max sharpened. Helps me see better. Particle detail, low, 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 off, low, off, low, 0, 0, off, low, on, and then medium. You can have terrain quality low, but this helps the game look a little bit better, and you don't lose that much FPS for it. Now, the last thing to look at is in the language and accessibility settings. Just a cool thing is I'm studying Japanese, so it's really cool that I can change the dialogue language to Japanese so I can hear it and practice my listening while playing the game. But like it's really cool that the game language, like the word language and the dialogue language is completely different. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's all one thing. I just thought that was pretty cool. There's so many different languages you can choose, and it's also kind of funny hearing a different language in the game as well. I have subtitles off because it just takes up a bunch of the screen. I have Tritonopia on just because it's essentially it's pretty much just a slightly different than having it none. You can have the flashbang effect put to dark so that your screen will go black instead of white when you get flashbanged. All this other stuff I kept normal. And one last cool thing, you can put on input-based matchmaking. Even though there's no skill-based matchmaking in the game, you can put on input-based matchmaking if you would like, to where if you're playing on controller and you have this on, you will only play against controller players and vice versa. But I don't have it on. I don't see a reason to. But that's essentially a starter guide on the settings menu in XDefiant. If this video helped you, be sure to leave, like, subscribe, and turn notifications. Of course, like always, it would really help me out a lot. Let me know how you've been enjoying XDefiant over the past few days since it's launched. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.